Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everybody is well today. I am Curtis Brandon, Program Specialist for the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. And thank you for attending today's webinar, SBA Support for Veteran-Owned Businesses Looking to Grow. A few housekeeping notes before we start. All participants will remain muted throughout this session. I want you to take a moment right now to locate the Q&A and the chat panels on the right side of the screen. If you are using your phone, please look to the top left-hand corner with 3 dots. You should be able to click on it and see the Q&A and the chat panel come up. I would like for everyone to post your questions related to this webinar into the Q&A panel. Let's leave the chat for kudos and networking. Your questions will be answered in the order of how they are listed. If time elapsed before we are unable to answer all of your questions, we will send the questions to our subject matter experts, and we will send those questions to them directly to respond to you directly. Please exercise proper virtual meeting etiquette. Please be respectful to all and refrain from the use of language and phrases that may be considered offensive to anyone. I would like to welcome our host, Mr. Stephen Sullivan. Let's begin.
Thank you, Curtis. Appreciate it. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. I was on a webinar that Curtis had about a month ago on international contracting opportunities, and I mentioned the SBA STEP grant as a resource for businesses that are looking to engage in international opportunities. And Curtis and I talked about doing a follow-up where we kind of present everything that SBA has to offer to veteran-owned businesses. So that's what we're doing here. We've got a full agenda, so I'm not going to take up much time other than to give you an idea of what we're doing. We'll have a presentation from an SBA district office about the kind of assistance that you can get there. We'll hear from our Office of Veteran Business Ownership. We'll hear from the Veterans in Procurement Initiative. We'll hear from our SBA Office of International Trade, and we'll hear from the Citadel about a international trade-related training program that they offer. So hope you enjoy the information. We also have a good number of veteran presenters on as well. So I'd ask if you served. As you do your quick intro, let them know what group of the armed services you're with. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Frank Anderson from our South Carolina District Office to get us started. Go ahead, Frank.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Frank Anderson, Lender Relations Specialist with the United States Small Business Administration. I'm also an Army veteran. I'm representing the SBA District Office of South Carolina. So the SBA is a federal agency dedicated to supporting small business. We help small business to start, grow, expand, and recover. And we explain how those things work. Next, please. Okay, to find the SBA district office, go to the SBA's website, which is www.sba.gov. Scroll down to near the bottom of the page, select locations, and you'll see this page right here. So the SBA has 68 different district offices around the country. We're in every state and every territory. Some states have more than one office based on the size of the state. The state of Florida, California, New York, and a couple others have more than one office. Next, please. Here's an example from the South Carolina District Office webpage. It says office provide help with SBA services, including funding programs, counseling, federal contracting, certifications, and disaster recovery. And she also help by making referrals to our lender and resource partners that do training and counseling one-on-one with individuals. Next, please. The SBA has a network of over 1,400 resource partners around the country. To find out that network, go to sba.gov/local assistance. Next, please. Our resource partner can assist you with business planning, expense sheets, financial projections, and statements. They work with you one-on-one to mentor you and coach you and get ready to expand or either look for external financing. And their services are done free of charge. Now, the resource partner that are funded by the SBA, we have what's called the Women's Business Center. The Women's Business Center primary focus is helping women in business. They will mentor men as well, but primarily they do women because women often have different experiences than men have in business. Secondly, we have the Small Business Development Centers. They are affiliated with universities and colleges around the U.S. And their mentors also mostly former business owners. They also can help you export products and services in the foreign markets. We also have SCORE. SCORE stands for the Service Corps of Retired Executives. They are current and former small business owners who mentor and coach people in business. So their coaches are volunteers. Next, we have the VBOC, the Veteran Business Outreach Center. VBOC focus on the military community. It can be retirees, individuals exiting the military, or veterans who need mentoring, coaching, and business. And again, with all of our resource partners, majority of their services are done free of charge. Only time they charge when they have workshops, and they are affordable, probably like $50 and less. Next, please. Within a district office, there are divisions. When there's lender relations, which is my side of the house, that's our loan guarantee programs. We also have government contracting and economic development. With our government contracting, we have certification process we can guide you through and assist you with. They allow individuals to do business with the federal government. Now, economic development offices, they work with local and federal and state economic development agencies to further spread the assistance of SBA and to help small business to grow and expand. Next, please. Need access to capital? SBA can help you with that also. Next, please. All right, the SBA loan can be used to start a business, to grow a business, to repair a business. You have a business that may be struggling, you can refinance your debt with an SBA loan. You can start a small business, you can purchase a small business. The loans can be used for working capital, also for lines of credit, also can be used for long-term purchases, such as machinery, equipment, real estate. You can expand facilities. You can do construction work with it. You can buy inventory, equipment, machinery. You can buy land. Also, you can export your product and services into foreign markets with an SBA guaranteed loan. Next, please. Here are the SBA's loan programs. The SBA has three primary programs. The first one is called the 7A. The 7A loan has a maximum loan amount of $5 million. Second loan program is called the 504. The 504 loan program can go to $5.5 million. It is normally used for long-term assets, again, machinery, equipment, or construction and real estate. And that loan is done through what's called certified development corporations. Our next loan is called a cap line. That's for working capital. Has a max loan amount of $5 million as well. We have a brand new product that started in August called the Working Capital Pilot. And that's a loan that offers $5 million in working capital. Okay. We also have loans, as I mentioned, to help you export your product and services into foreign markets. Those are called export loans. They can range from $500,000 up to $5 million as well. We have an SBA Express loan. The SBA Express loan has a maximum loan amount of $500,000. The loan also has less documentation than a standard 7A loan, so it can be done much faster. And that's such the name of it, SBA Express. Now, the SBA would consider loans that are $350,000 or less small loans. So those loans called that SBA 7A small loans. There's also a loan program called Community Advantage. Our Community Advantage loans are done by non-traditional lenders, has a maximum loan amount of $350,000. The last loan program is called the micro loan. Our micro loan range from $500 to $50,000. Those companies, we have several companies that offer that. And with our micro loans, you can have credit scores in the 500s for our micro loan. Next, please. There's also a program called Veteran Advantage, which is a loan program. Normally, the SBA charges a fee for our loan, which is based on your loan amount. However, for Veteran Advantage, loans up to $350,000 for veterans, the fees are waived. I'll be honest with you, for fiscal year 25, loans that are $1 million or less, the fees waived for all borrowers on SBA guarantee loans. Again, up to fiscal year 2025, all loans for small businesses that are $1 million and less the fees are waived for that loan. Next, please. The requirements for an SBA Veteran Advantage loan: veteran must have other than a dishonorable discharge. It can be service-disabled veterans. It can be active duty veterans who are participating in a TAP program. Those are short timers getting out. It can be reservists, or National Guard members as well. It can be spouses, widowers, individuals that were injured or either died with a connection to VA disability can qualify for the Veteran Advantage Loan Program. Next, please. Next, we're going to discuss our disaster loans. So what happens when there are earthquakes, forest fires, hurricanes, stuff like that? The SBA, along with other federal agencies such as FEMA, they move into communities to offer long-term. FEMA offers grants. The SBA offers long-term loans to help individuals and small businesses to recover. For example, here, if you are a homeowner, your home is damaged through the storm, the president declares the area a disaster area, you can qualify for about $500,000 to repair your home. If you are renting a facility or renting a home, you qualify for about $50,000. And there's one called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. We call that EIDL loan or the EIDL loan. Those for small businesses. Normally, the EIDL loan is a 30-year loan with a fixed interest rate. Last time we had the EIDL loan, it was 3.75 for a for-profit business and 2.75 for nonprofit business. Again, 30-year fixed rate loan of up to $2 million. Disaster loans can also be used to cover machinery, equipment, inventory. Also, if you are a reservist or National Guard member, a call to the active duty, the loan can apply to you as well. Next, please. Are you ready for federal contracting? The U.S. government is the largest purchaser of goods and services in the world. Each year, the U.S. government spends about $500 billion purchasing goods and services. They have a requirement of 36% of that is set aside and must be used with small businesses. To find out information regarding government contracting, please go to sba.gov/contracting. Next, please. Through the SBA, individuals can do business with the federal government. Like I said, 23% of that $500 billion must go to small businesses. What you need is a certification. And there are several certifications you can get from the SBA free of charge. Our office, we have individuals called Business Opportunity Specialists. They can assist you with getting certifications. Also, we have resource partners that can assist you in getting certifications as well. Here's some examples of the certifications. The first one is called the 8A. The 8A, must be in business 2 years prior to applying for the program. It's a 9-year program, and you must be a member of the minority community as well. So once you graduate at the end of the 9 years, the program is finished for you. The next is called the Hub Zone, historically underutilized business zones. The hub zones could be rural or area or either urban areas that are designated by the federal government that requires economic development. Businesses can locate in the hub zone, and there's a requirement that 36% of your employees must reside in the hub zone as well. The owner doesn't have to live there, but a percentage of the employees must live there. The purpose of that program is to encourage economic development. Now, there's also a woman-owned business certification. you must be born a woman with the woman-owned certification. There's also something called an economic disadvantage woman-owned small business certification. That means that you are a female in a field that's dominated by men. So that's another certification you can have. And lastly, we have a veteran-owned certification. We call that VOSB, veteran-owned small business. Also, there's a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. So if you have at least a 0% rating from the VA, you also can serve as certified as a veteran-owned small business or service-disabled veteran-owned small business. So you can have the more certifications that you have, the more attractive you are when you're applying for a federal contract. Find out more information about certification, please go to certified.sba.gov. Next, please. Here's some other agencies that can be local or statewide that assist. The one's called Apex. Apex, they are an agency. They help you apply for contracts, help you interpret contracts. When you first apply for contract, to apply for certifications, you need to apply what's called SAM, System of Awards Management. My highly recommendation to you, if you're interested in federal contracting, please contact the SBA district office who can refer you to an SBA resource partner work with you free of charge. The reason I say that because there are individuals out there who want to charge you money for certifications, and you can save yourself a lot of money by working with us or a resource partner free of charge. Next, please. And that is it for me. Thank you very much.
Mark, up to you.
Myself off mute. Hi, everybody. Mark Williams from the SBA's Office of Veterans Business Development. Want to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that our office does. And we team up well with Frank and some of the other folks that you're going to hear from here. So, so again, SBA's Office of Veterans Business Development. I have a slide that has all of our, what we do on the screen, but the big thing is we're the voice of veteran-owned businesses. We're there we advocate, we go to the Hill, we have meetings where veteran business owners who have issues can come in and talk to us. We work with other agencies that, anything that help veteran small business. So we do, we kind of promote the same things that Frank talked about before. So next slide, please. All right. So as I said, one of the things we do is we help influence policy at various places. So we have two committees that you all are welcome to be part of if you're interested, if you want to listen in. Someone asked for my contact info, so I just dropped that in. But we have two meetings, the Advisory Committee on Veterans Business Affairs and an Interagency Task Force on Veterans Small Business Development. And if you want to find when and where those meetings are happening, this presentation will go out to everybody, but sba.gov/OVBD is where you can find the schedule. Next slide, please. All right, so like Frank said, 68 district offices across the U.S. We work with all of them. We also work with a lot of other partners. You see logos for a lot of them on the screen. One thing that Frank did not talk about is there's a person called a Veterans Business Development Officer. Frank is one of them. There's a Veteran Business Development Officer at every one of our 68 district offices. So that's a good place to start if you're looking for, help with your veteran-owned small business. Next slide, please. All right, so let's talk about what one of the major things that our office does is we have veteran business outreach centers, which Frank talked about. I'm the director of that program. There's 31 of those. So, if you notice, Frank said there's a district office in every state, sometimes more than one. We only have 31 centers at this time. However, wherever you are, there is a veteran business outreach center that serves you. So even if your state may not have one, there's a place. So if you were to go to sba.gov/VBOC, you could find which VBOC serves your area. And then all else fails, I put my contact info in. You can reach out to me, and I'll make sure you get directed. Next slide, please. So, I didn't talk about what the VBOCs do, but we're I'm a veteran business owner. I need somebody who understands veteran business ownership. You can start with us, and we connect you to the other folks who help in the space. That's a big part of what we do. We just increased the size of our network by 3 and went to 31 VBOCs. So we put a new VBOC in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and in Puerto Rico. So before we had those centers, we had other areas that served them, but now we have VBOCs there, and we're hoping to get a VBOC in every state. Somebody said Ohio, which I just found out how that whole thing works. So cool. Next slide, please. All right. So along with our meetings and policy making and our veteran business outreach centers, a big part of what we do is provide entrepreneurial training for both transitioning service members. That's the bulk of what we do. We train about 15,000 folks every year who are getting out of the military who want to learn about entrepreneurship. So we have a course called Boots to Business. It's a 2-day course that's held at bases. I'm sure there's some folks here who might have taken that course. If you were not able to go to that course, or maybe you went to it and you would like to go again, you can take that course as many times as you want, the Boots to Business course on base, but we also have a course called Boots to Business Reboot, which is the same course, but it's made for people who've already transitioned, people who maybe are not able to get onto one of the military installations usually held off base, and how to get there, sba.mysite.com. And this will be in the PowerPoint, and I'll try to drop it in chat too. I can't multitask well, though. I'm old. So next slide, please. Okay, so back to the Boots to Business and Reboot. Those are the 8. It's split into 8 modules. So basically, introduction to what being an entrepreneur is about, how to recognize if something is a good opportunity or not, some marketing information, how to make the dollars work, the economics of small business startup. We talk about legal. We talk about business planning and business plans. How are you going to finance that? And then how to connect up with all of the resources who can help you do that. So that's what we do in the Boots to Business program. So it's a 1 or 2-day course. And if you decide after you've taken the course that you want to continue down the road, we make sure that we know who to hook you up with that can help you, move your small business forward. Or we can help you with a business you already have. Next slide, please. All right. So we also have a course specifically for military spouses called Military Spouse Pathway to Business. A lot of the same information in the Boots to Business courses, but a little bit of focus on military spouses who, may have to pick up and move because their military member went somewhere else. We kind of talk about that. So Military Spouse Pathway to Business, links to how to get there are there. Next slide, please. And after you finish the course, there's a really great follow-on course called the Boots to Business Revenue Readiness course. It's a 6-week online course. We give it different times of the day. And it's basically, after you take that course, you probably have a bank-ready business plan ready to go. And then we also have a lot of business courses that are online that cover government contracting and a lot of international trade, how to hire, how to market, all those things. Free courses 24/7, 365 at the SBA Learning Center that you can get to. Next slide, please. All right, so entrepreneurship is a team sport. Next slide, please. All right, so I won't belabor this, but basically all of the resource partners that Frank talked about, I kind of put a success story that each one of these resource partners helped with. And a kind of a theme is that we work together. All of these partners that Frank talked about, you don't have to pick one. If you go to a VBOC and then they say, wow, they need to talk to a small business development center because they're interested in exporting, that's a strong suit of the Small Business Development Center. We'll connect you up. So there's Veteran Business Outreach Centers. So a guy who was on active duty in the Navy started a brewery, like a lot of businesses do, just started at home doing something he liked, and then, has an actual brewery facility, worked with all of the partners here, got an SBA loan, the whole kit and caboodle. So Veteran Business Outreach Centers. Next slide, please. All right, so SCORE, Air Force vet, guy who said, I want to do something entirely different from what I did in the Air Force, which I think was security IT things. So he has a retail store where they sell little tchotchkes, cool little tchotchkes here in the DC area. So again, worked with all the partners to get help. Next slide, please. Small Business Development Centers, another partner. So there's one of our successful clients, Jelon Hall Johnson, military spouse. She's used to working, having a job at when she was at a military installation, and going through the military family help center, and her spouse was on, I think, recruiting duty, got sent to Montana where they didn't have those resources. So she said, I like to cook, and she started her own business, and she got help putting that business together. Next slide, please. And last one of the partners, Women's Business Centers, and Frank talked about them. So this particular group of entrepreneurs, two ladies, two guards people who, saw that, wow, when I go on deployment, I don't have a good place to house my dog. And so they made the thing called the Bed and Biscuit Ranch, which does, housing of dogs the way they would like it to be done. And so they opened their facility, and they worked again with a lot of the different partners to do it. Next slide, please. All right. So last thing I want to talk about that we are doing is we are working closely with the VA's Office of Veterans Readiness and Employment to work on what's called the self-employment track of that. So there is a way to get, which used to be called VOC Rehab, but the Veterans Readiness and Employment, there is a way to get funding for training, small business equipment, et cetera, through the VR&E program. So we're trying to, work more with the VA, work closer in partnership with them to better serve our service disabled veterans who need help. And again, like Frank said, just got to have a rating of 0%, and you may be eligible for that. So more information, there's links on the slides to go to find out more. Next slide, please. All right, last thing I want to talk about our office does. So we also have specific training programs for groups of veterans. So one of them is service disabled veteran entrepreneurship training programs. We work with universities and other organizations that have training programs that are focused on service disabled veterans. They do things different, but we work with 4 organizations that are on that slide if you want to do that. Next slide, please. And we also have a women veteran entrepreneurship training program, which works with women veterans. So there's a couple of the organizations that do it. And Kevin just said, I am in the Vetran program, which is one of our service disabled veteran owned programs. And he says it's awesome. So thanks. Next slide, please. All right, so there's my contact info. And I did want to stress, if you'd like to go to one of those classes I talked about, you can click on that link and find a calendar of where those classes are held and how to sign up, et cetera. And I put some information about us as well. Next slide, please. Okay, and then one of the things that our office does is also we provide some funding. So all of those programs we talked about, we fund some or part of those programs. So one of the big places where being a veteran entrepreneur is different is you can use your veteran status to, sell to the government. That's one of the places that sets you apart is you being a veteran. And if there's programs for veteran-owned contracting and service-disabled veteran-owned contracting, we work with an organization called VIP, which you're going to hear about next. Phenomenal organization to help you figure out this often confusing landscape of service disabled and veteran owned contracting. And so people who take this course, it's like a night and day from what they attend, how they were doing before. Someone giving some props in the chat window, thank you. So I'll stop babbling and I will turn it over to Mauricio, who is next up. So thanks a lot for your time today, y'all. Thank you.
All right, Mark, thank you so much, and thanks for the great introduction. So I am going to, I'm Mauricio Vera. I'm the Assistant National Director for the Veteran Institute for Procurement, also known as VIP. And if we can go to the next slide, please. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what VIP is all about. Next slide, please. As Mark was mentioning, he talked a little bit about Boots to Business. We get a lot at VIP, which is a national training program for veteran-owned small businesses and service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses, and it's all about federal procurement. Okay, we get a lot of the graduates from Boots to Business because once they've gone through that program, they're ready for the next step, and that's where we come in. We are actually an SBA resource partner, so we are funded through the SBA through competitive grants. We've been doing this for about 15 years, and it's a program that really works, that succeeds. We have a lot of companies. As you can see, we've graduated 2,800 plus companies from all 50 states. It's a national training program, and we've been able to grow these companies through the training that they get at VIP. The training is provided at no cost to the veteran-owned small businesses. Just to tell you what it's about, so you come in from wherever you are in the country, you come to our training location, which is right outside of DC, that's called the Bolger Center in Potomac, Maryland. You come in, and for 3 days, we're going to train you, and we're going to provide lodging and feed you for those 3 days. And it's a pretty intensive training program for those of you who may have already attended. That it's pretty intensive, but you will get a lot out of it. Next slide, please. So basically, these are the various curriculums that we offer at VIP. They start, when the first 3 are more procurement specific. And the start ones are for not necessarily startups, but companies that are already, have already decided that they're going to pursue government contracting opportunities and are already registered in SAM, already are fully devoted to the business, have an active website and all those things. That's the startup. And then as you go to the right, grow is for more like mid-size companies, companies that are already growing, that are already doing business with the government, either as a prime or a subcontractor, and are ready to grow to the next stage. Advance is one that is for fairly large small businesses that are almost at the point where they're not considered small businesses anymore, and the challenges that those companies face. The minimum revenues to attend Advance is you have to have $10 million in revenues per year. So it's for companies that are well versed already in government contracting. And then below you see the more sector specific curriculums that we have international, which I'm going to get into a little more detail in a few minutes. But that one is for companies that are considering entering or expanding their business overseas. It's completely different trying to do business overseas. So that curriculum is very different. And then aerospace is for companies that are looking to grow in the aerospace market, which is, it's obviously a growing area of the government with some of the recent investments in the government. And then commercial is our newest curriculum, and that's very different from everything else because it's about trying to do business with the commercial sector, with the corporate side. So it's not about government contracting. So that one we launched it just last year in October, was our first class, and it was very successful. So we're moving on from that one. Next slide, please. So wanted to tell you a little bit more about each one of these curriculums, and they're basically the eligibility requirements to get into these classes. You can see here for the start, it's, you have to be in business at least a year, be one employee, so you have to be full-time devoted to the business, have an active website, and be registered in SAM. As you go to the right, the companies haven't been in business a few more years, have more employees, already have to be performing on a contract, and even though the ones that are participating grow, the profile is actually much larger. The average, they're usually about 7 to 10 employees. They've been in business usually at least 5 years, and they're usually much more advanced than what the minimum requirements are. As you can see to the right, I mentioned for the advanced class, the revenue $10 million. It's much more higher eligibility requirements, and obviously the curriculums for each one of these classes is very, very different. What you're going to talk about in start, or what is going to be presented in advance, is night and day. And it's all about mitigating growth, mitigating the challenges and that you're going to face in growing your business. Next slide, please. So in the sector-specific training modules that I mentioned, I talked about international, aerospace, and commercial. You can see there what the eligibility requirements are. For the international one, you don't have to already be doing business overseas. We get many that are considering doing business overseas, and then you'll be able to understand a little bit more about the challenges that you're going to face when you try to expand your business to overseas markets. Again, and you can see here what the requirements are for each one of the different curriculums. Next slide, please. So does it work? Big question, right? Does this training work? Well, I mentioned before that we had graduated 2,800 companies, and in that, those 2,800 graduates have generated over $38 billion in federal prime contract awards since 2010. So obviously, they are successful companies that have gone through the program. We have a huge number of success stories. Mark was showing some excellent success stories through the SBA. Frequently, when we do these sessions, we'll have a couple of VIP graduates, and I see a couple that are already putting some comments into the chat, that have gone through the program and can talk about specifically, the experience of going through the training and how it helped them grow their business. The training is, the instructors are all subject matter experts in their area of expertise, all working in the government contracting space. Some of them are in industry and in government. So they, are the ones that are all volunteers and provide the instruction. The key thing that we're trying to do is to get these companies what we call procurement ready, so that they're ready to not only compete, but also comply and then perform. Once they win a government contract, the only way they're going to grow is if they perform, and they get those CPARs and that past performance that is so important in getting the next contract. And we talk about overcoming barriers. How do you get into, we have presentations from agency representatives who talk about their specific agency and how to get into those agencies. Next slide, please. A couple of additional benefits that you get from VIP. We like to say that it's the gift that keeps on giving, because not only when you go through the training, there's additional benefits that you get. We have a portal that's called the VIP Marketplace, which is basically a database of companies that have gone through the programs. We have about 1,300 or so registered currently in the marketplace, and that is accessible to our government partners, government agencies, as well as some of the prime contractors, and they can use that to find potential veteran-owned small businesses to perform their work. And also it's the graduates themselves can use that to find potential partners to pursue opportunities. So let's say, for example, they want to, a company wants to pursue opportunities at the Department of Health and Human Services. They can go in there and find somebody who, a VIP graduate who's already doing business there, and they can partner up. So this is an awesome benefit that we provide. Also mentorship. The instructors that come in frequently provide ongoing support and mentorship to some of our graduates. And in addition, the graduates themselves, the engagement, we frequently hear that, you know, they value not only the instruction, but also the engagement among the cohort, because frequently they'll find mentors that they can work with. We also bring in graduates, we call them CEO lessons learned, successful companies that have gone through the program that you know can become mentors potentially, or just advisors for these businesses going through the program. And then continuing education, we do this once a year. As a matter of fact, we just had a session earlier today. They're basically topical issues that are impacting government contracting. We had 4 sessions over the past 2 weeks, all focused on AI, on artificial intelligence, and how that's impacting the federal procurement marketplace. So once you become a graduate, you can listen in on these webinars. These are webinars that are available to all of our graduates. Next slide, please. So a little bit about the international training, and I'm going to focus on this because I know we have a class coming up, and we still do have some openings in that class. So I just want to tell you a little bit about what you will learn in the international class. Here, these are the eligibility requirements. Again, companies that are looking to enter or expand to the overseas markets, and it's very, very different from the other curriculums. Next slide, please. And I'll tell you a little bit about what is covered in international. Here you can see the sample curriculum there about negotiating strategies for overseas markets. You know, how do you deal with cultural issues, compliance and logistics? How do you market to agencies or to even to international potential partners? You can see here sort of a listing of some of the things that are covered in our curriculums. In the international class, we've had since the program launched. This program launched in 2017. You can see there the number of graduates that we've had in the profile: minority business, women-owned, 8As, and hub zones, and service-disabled veterans, and the average size. And again, talking about impact, 44% increase in overseas revenues. We survey our graduates. You can see that they've been able to grow their overseas business. And of the ones that hadn't entered the international market, about 19% decided to enter the international market. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, this class is coming up, and we partner closely with the International Trade Administration of the Department of Commerce, who comes in and they actually do presentations during our international class, because you can see the international markets, more than 70% of the world's purchasing power is outside of the US, so we know that it's important. Our next class is in just a couple of months, very easy to apply. We have a few slots open, but it's first come, first serve, and so if you're interested at all, please go ahead and apply, and we'd love to have you join us for that class. Next slide, please. I'm going to finish up here by just letting you know what the upcoming classes are. Here is the schedule for all the curriculums that I mentioned. You can see here that the START one is the one that we have the most of, because there are just more companies that are in that stage of their business growth. And we offer that, you know, so we usually have about 7 classes a year of the START. The other ones are mostly once a year, except for the GROW, which we're offering a little bit more. I can tell you all of the classes that are here, the ones where we do have openings up for the upcoming class, the Grow one in March, the International one, and the Advance, there are still openings for the next class. So very easy to apply. You can see nationalvip.org, takes about 5 minutes. And we hope to see many of you at one of our upcoming classes. We would love to have you. It's a transformative experience going through the program, I can tell you, because we lead the classes and the companies leave with just a renewed outlook and very positive outlook on opportunities with the federal government. So I will leave it at that. I look forward to your questions later on in the presentation, and thank you again for inviting us. And I will pass it on to the next presenter, who's from the SBA's Office of International Trade, Mr. Mike Fazio. Over to you, Mike.
Thank you, Mauricio, and good morning and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Fazio. I'm with the SBA's Office of International Trade. Work with Steve Sullivan. He's in our DC office, and he's the one that did the initial introductions. I'm located in the San Francisco U.S. Export Assistance Center. So if you see the map there up on the screen, and if you look from left to right, there is coverage nationwide. So the salmon-colored section there is Northern and Central California. That's what I cover. And then this map's a little bit out of date because we just had a couple of recent retirements. But for the most part, if you look up above me in Seattle, my colleague John Brislin covers the Pacific Northwest. Have Jeremy Foreman down in Texas, Sandro down in Miami, and then all the way up in the upper right. If you're in New England and you're looking for export finance or working capital assistance with the SBA, you can talk to our colleague Joe Raycraft. But today I'm here to give you some information on the Office of International Trade overall, and specifically some of our funding programs that you can use as small business exporters and also domestic operators with the need of a working capital. So, and also I'm a Marine Corps veteran, so Semper Fi to all the other Marines out there in the audience, and my apologies to any sailors out there I might have done something to way in the past. Let's get over it, right? But anyway, OIT, the mission of the office overall is to enhance the ability of small businesses to compete in the global marketplace. And what we do nationwide as export finance managers is we provide local support in each one of our markets. So, I'm out here in California covering the north and the central part of the state, and I have 2 colleagues in Southern California, and then again everybody nationwide. Next slide, please. First thing I'd like to bring to your attention overall with the Office of International Trade are the tools that are available to you online. So you'll notice there's a link at the bottom of each one of these slides with more information on what might be helpful to you as a small business exporter. So Steve's colleagues at our Washington, D.C. headquarters, they work with matters with other federal agencies that we work with, the U.S. Commercial Service, XM Bank, anything relating to tariffs and exporting overall. Next slide, please. One thing in particular, I'm going to get into details as we move along here, talking about loan guarantee programs. We do also have a grant program, but I need to make it very clear that the grant is not provided directly to the small businesses. It's provided to states and territories on a competitive basis. So if you are an exporter or if you are an aspiring exporter and you're looking for some grant funds to help you out, go to sba.gov/step and take a look and see if your state or territory participates. Most do. I can tell you that the state of California does. It's aptly named California STEP. So when you go to this website, you can take a look and see California listed there. Go directly to the state's website and take a look at the application process. California's participated in it every year since the beginning of the program. It's been around for a little over 10 years, and it's generally around $20 million that's dispersed amongst the states that compete for the funds. So definitely keep that in mind. Next slide, please. So with the grant information behind us, I want to talk more specifically about the loan guarantee programs that we have and what loan guarantee means. And Frank covered some of this earlier when he talked about the district offices, is you don't apply for a loan directly from SBA with these programs. Instead, what we do is we provide a guarantee to the lenders, generally commercial banks and business banks that provide the funding to you. And as an incentive, we provide a guarantee of up to 90% to cover anything in the future if there are losses. So there are 3 export-specific programs that we've had for decades: Export Express, the International Trade Loan, and the Export Working Capital Program. We here at the Office of International Trade, the export finance managers across the country, that's our day-to-day work in our local regions, working with the lending community to make sure they understand the programs and how they can implement them to the small business exporter community, and also working with resource partners and with small business exporters so they know how to use the programs as well. And the Export Working Capital Program, the third one listed, that's the one that we work on the most often because it helps to finance foreign purchase orders. Because of that, we at the Office of International Trade are also working on our new pilot program, the Working Capital Program, that can also be used for domestic purposes. So look at us not just as export finance managers, but look at us as working capital finance managers for you to rely on. And there's a link right here at the bottom. So that map that I showed you a little bit earlier, this is the link to the contact information for me and for all of my colleagues around the country. Of course, you're welcome to contact me directly, but if you're in Miami, I'm telling you, you're better off talking to Sandra about working capital solutions and export finance. Same goes as if you're in Texas. Jeremy's the guy in Houston that can help you out. Next slide, please. A little more specific on Export Express. This has a limit of $500,000. Frank talked earlier about all of SBA's loan programs, and there's that overall cap of $5 million. This specific program has the $500,000 limit because it has more flexibility. The lenders are able to deploy the funds themselves. They have what's called delegated authority, and it can be used for term loans, which most people are familiar with SBA, but it also can be used for lines of credit. So this one is really good for what we think of as like export development, soft costs associated with being an exporter and expanding into new markets, or looking at starting out being an exporter altogether. Next slide, please. The main program we have is the Export Working Capital Program, and this is specifically to fulfill export orders. So this one, it can be set up for single transactions or for multiple contracts, or even revolving sales where you're drawing up and paying down throughout the term of the loan. Usually there's short-term loans, 12 months, most lenders set them up as, but there is availability to use it up to 36 months. So it's just a matter of what kind of guarantee fee you might pay associated with that. So the important thing to keep in mind with this one is it's not as flexible as the first program, Export Express, because it's used strictly for fulfilling export orders. You wouldn't use this for term loan financing at all. But the nice thing is it goes to the full $5 million SBA cap. Next slide, please. Getting into term loans specifically, that's what the International Trade Loan Program is for. It's up to $5 million. This cannot be used for lines of credit or any kind of short-term working capital. A component can be used for permanent working capital, But the intent of this program really is for fixed assets. If you're acquiring machinery or equipment, you're buying real estate, you're expanding real estate, that's the purpose of this loan. This type of loan would be term, so you would have set payments over the life of the loan. It wouldn't be something you would draw up and pay down on. Next slide, please. The working capital program, this is the new domestic program that we have, and it is built off of the export working capital program. And this one also goes up to $5 million. When you review these slides later, you'll notice that a lot of the bullet points are the same as EWCP. So what this program is set up for is being able to use it for domestic purposes. It has a 75% guarantee rather than the 90% guarantee, but it does provide you with the opportunity to use it for export and domestic purposes. So you're only monitoring one line of credit rather than two if you need lines for domestic and for export purposes. Next slide, please. Here's some examples of companies that use the export programs and also will be using the working capital program. The working capital program, the new one, has only been out since August 1st, so we're still compiling information on that program and we're reporting it as we go along. But you can see there's a good mix of exporters that are also domestic type businesses that use our programs. Next slide, please. This one's important, I think, for the audience because the export working capital program was restricted just to U.S. exports. And most people think, well, if I'm selling to somebody doing something outside of the United States, that counts as an export, right? Well, no, not necessarily. You might be selling to the U.S. government that's using your widgets at a base in Okinawa, Japan, or somewhere in Europe. Well, yeah, it's being used in a foreign country, but your buyer is the U.S. military. It's not a foreign buyer. It's not somebody that's living in that country and operating their business there. So that was kind of a roadblock for some banks and businesses using EWCP because they didn't want to monitor a separate line of credit from their domestic operations. So WCP, the pilot program that's been in place since August 1st, that can be used to fulfill those orders to the U.S. government that's buying from you. Next slide, please. Each of the slides that I showed you earlier had links directly to get a hold of me as an export finance manager or one of my colleagues around the country. That's repeated here. Same goes for trade tools and for STEP to look up and see if your state or territory participates. And then finally, if you just want to look at the general information with OIT, you're welcome to use that link or type in sba.gov/international. So that is it for me. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's a pleasure being here with everybody. Up next is David with the Citadel to share some information on that with you.
Thank you so much, Michael. So I'm just, I guess, a wrap up to some of the content. So I'm going to go ahead and have Curtis go ahead. What I am here to present to you is what the Citadel, the VTLI, and the actual South Carolina VBOC. Just want to clarify that this is what I'm presenting is available to all. It is currently housed here at the Citadel, the Military College South Carolina, which is a VBOC partner. It is part of the Veteran Transformational Learning Initiative effort. And so if you are a veteran looking to export, which is what this is in general, you have two ways. You can either scan the QR code that you have there or look at the website as you have it here. And by the way, these slides will be shared by Curtis with people who are participating. So the good news here is that we have developed all the things that you're learning and hearing about, either be the resources that are available to you, the network that are available to you throughout the states, and even overseas in some of the VBOC or other SBA partnered entities, whether it be an actual SBA officer or possibly even the embassies and the consulate. What we've designed is something called the Global Gateway. The intent of it is to allow people to further their learning. So as you know, when you engage in any kind of business, some of you have done the Boots to Business, some of you are engaged in the readiness program, which is awesome. That's great. But I guess the next thing is, how do I go to find out a little bit more before I engage and decide? We do want to encourage, obviously, exporting. The big thing is America is extremely well received, not only well received, but also absolutely well regarded around the world. I have done work in the Middle East. I'm originally French. I'm at the Citadel. I stand in the South Carolina State Guard. I'm a major supporting the state effort, though I have not served officially under the American flag, but happy to give back to my community. And that being said, part of what I do at the Citadel is actually I'm resource for people in the state. I work with my SBDCs, but what we've done is we've taken 2 individual instructors with great deal of experience, 20 or plus years of exporting experience, who actually then used, if you've heard the word CGBP, the Certificate for Global Business Resource certification, and that actually is a well regarded. A lot of people in the ITA or other international offices as part of various agencies within the United States government encourage their officers to get credentialed in that. And so what we've done is we've designed, if you could go on next, Curtis, is an actual curriculum. The curriculum actually is a mapped out, completely self-service. And by the way, what you have to do is, and if you don't have to always be a veteran, but this is actually a resource that was designed by the South Carolina VBOC for veterans for the purpose of educating them about the importance of, and there are 4 domains. So you have global management, global marketing, global supply chain, and global finance. And again, I apologize for the fine font here. This will be made and shared with you. But what it is that we've created modules with videos, and the intent here is completely self-learning. We want to reward at the end if you do complete the learning, and there are some knowledge checks, and along the way, if you're ready at the end to take a final assessment of where you're at, you may actually get a digital badge. Not obviously, as we know, we are trying to reward learning. We encourage people, and not only that, we then encourage the application of what you may have learned, but also we provide support tools. For some of you who don't really know where to start from, this might be a great way. We will not, by the way, necessarily quote unquote discriminate. It starts with veterans. It is for veterans, but we do offer this completely free. It is free to the community, and so we do encourage veterans, significant others, people in the National Guard, and people who are associated. Some veteran business owners that are on this call who are looking at it, taking the next step of exporting, consider sending even your employees. This is not meant to be just a specifically only, and we do not parcel out and screen out people. So we do encourage people to consider this learning totally free. It is about 8 hours worth of learning. It does require completing each of the domains in order and task, including completing the knowledge tests or checks. I call them tests, and not really tests, they're checks. But we do at the end offer, based on completing this map, hopefully a success, and you'd be issued a digital badge. So if I could have Curtis go back, if you don't mind, the previous slide, just because for some people, again, they will be made available to you. You would receive these deck of slides, into which if you go right now to the https://www.citadel.edu/VTLI/global gateway. There is a form, and then when you fill up your information, no, we do not provide that information to anybody, then our VBOC director will follow up with you, and then he will then send you the credentials that are required, the link toward the site, as well as the username, and then the password. And then from there, it will be completely open to you and available to you at all time. And that's it. I will bring it back to Stephen here with any questions.
Great, thanks, David. Ton of information. I got a few questions that I grabbed from the Q&A. So jump in. I think the first couple are probably for Frank or for Mark. I'm interested in any possible grants for service connected disabled veterans or access to set-asides for disabled vets. Could one of you speak to kind of programs for disabled vets at all? Mark, you still there?
Still here. Yes. Not a lot of grants at the federal level for not a lot of grants at the federal level for small businesses in general, but sometimes the state and local governments will have grants. So the best thing to do is reach out to your veteran business outreach centers or your VBDOs, your veteran business development officers that are in your area, and they can help you figure out what is nearby. As far as set asides, I mean, for government contracting, it's 5% of the federal spend is for service disabled veteran owned small businesses. You'd have to get your business certified. And I put, you can go to SBA, www.sba.gov/vetcert to start that application. Hope that answers the question. Over.
Great, thanks. And as far as the grants go, Mike Fazio did mention the one international trade grant, the STEP grant program, which is funds for maybe participating in a trade mission, getting overseas, sort of getting launched with your international stuff. So that's not necessarily for veterans or disabled veterans, it's for everybody, but something that would be accessible. We had a number of questions from service providers about their eligibility for SBA programs and services. Anybody want to talk about that at all?
Hey, Steve. Yeah, I'll comment on that quickly. Yes, services can be financed the same as products. So whether you're an engineering firm or you're an architect or you're doing training of some sort, SBA financing can provide you some help with that. It's just a matter of working it out with your lender from a collateral position and a collections position.
Great, thanks, Mike. And I know Mauricio mentioned in the chat or the Q&A that they train service providers as well in their VIP program. Somebody asked, does 8A certification require minimum number of years in business? Mark or Frank?
Yes, the 8A program requires you to be in business at least 2 years before you can apply for that program.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, another question. Does your business have to have revenue in order to get funding from the SBA?
No, the SBA allows startup businesses as well. A business that's been open for 2 years or less is considered a startup business. So they look at projections to determine how much you'll qualify for financing.
Okay, and what's usually the best resource for folks that are just starting, would you say, Frank?
What we normally do is refer you to a local resource partner. We showed you earlier who those partners are: Women's Business Centers, the VBOCs, SCORE, and Small Business Development Center. We refer them to you to work directly with you to make sure that you're ready for financing. Working with those resource partners improve your chances of getting financed rather than you going to them straight out the street.
Okay, thanks, Frank. Another one that came in, I'm not sure who can answer this. We've come to learn that obtaining the VOSB certification with the SBA does not offer any benefits. The SBA uses it to track VOSB existence, but for contracting and grant advantages, you have to be a disabled veteran small business. Is that correct? I'm not sure I follow that completely, but Frank or Mark?
I disagree. I think like any certification that you have, it gives you a preference. And doing business with the government, we have, with our district office, we have several veterans or either non-veterans with certifications that have only have federal contracts. Those certifications assist you in getting contracts, and not just federal contracts. It could be state contracts or local contracts also. Certification will help you.
Great, thanks. Okay, and here's one. I'm already registered on SAM. However, I have not done business with the government. Would the START class still apply? We've been in business 10 years plus. I think that might be for Mauricio.
Yes, if as long as you're registered in SAM, you're definitely eligible to participate in the START program. You don't have to have revenues from the government. That's kind of what
Okay, and so they just go in, like, what do they need to apply or something like that?
So if you go on our website, nationalvip.org, and you just pick whichever class curriculum you want to attend. So in this case, it would be VIP Start, and it just walks you through the process. We ask you a lot of questions. Again, we're trying to determine the eligibility. So you have to have an active website, you have to be registered in SAM, you have to be full-time devoted to the business. So I talked about the eligibility criteria. So as long as you're eligible from that perspective, and you're a veteran-owned small business, you don't have to be certified as a veteran, but you are a veteran-owned small business. You can attend START.
And Mauricio, are all your classes in person or do you do some virtually?
They're all in person. Yep, they're all in person at right outside of DC in Potomac, Maryland. And again, we provide lodging and feed them and train them for 3 days, so they can stay at the site. So it's like a little mini college campus out there in Potomac.
Right. Okay, here's a question. I'm not sure I understand. How do we apply to start a VBOC in our area? I live in Arizona. Mark?
Yeah, I replied to those. There's two people asked about how to start a VBOC. I just told them to contact me on how I can explain how it works. And it's a grant funded program. We periodically we get funding to expand the network, and I can explain the process to anybody who's interested in that. Over.
Okay, thanks. All right. I got one. We need to become a certified veteran-owned business and need assistance with the application process. I may have missed it, but is there a contact for me in Alaska?
Yeah, I would say contact your local district office. I think the Alaska office is in Anchorage, and they can assist you. Again, what they will likely do is refer you to a local resource partner that's in your city or county where you reside, and they can assist you free of charge. But first off, contact your local SBA district office.
Yeah, and I put,
Okay.
adding on to what Frank said, I put in the chat. Can't answer questions anymore. My send button's grayed out, but I've been trying to answer. I did put in there the VBOC can also help you with that, and also we didn't talk about this, but the veteran certification has gotten simplified, and I think you just go to www.sba.gov/vetcert to start the process. It's pretty straightforward on what to do, but if you need help, the SBA office or the VBOC or even some of the other partners can help you. Over.
Thanks. Okay, Mike Fazio, maybe this one could be related to international business. It says already certified as an SDVOSB and looking for information on how to network to obtain freight brokerage and freight hauling contracts.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think the best thing to do is to start out by working with your district export council, the DEC. Those are people that are already involved in your region, and they network with each other and provide support to people that are already part of the network and also new people. So just search District Export Council. They're nationwide. If you're looking for somebody in Northern or Central California, please email me directly. I can do a direct introduction.
Great, thanks. Yeah, that was one of the other many resources out there that can support on the international side. And these are folks that are led by the Department of Commerce but typically in business and there to help support other local businesses. So let's see. Okay, there's a question here about the equity infusion portion on all SBA loans being high, and sorry, I got something popping up. Consistently ruins many attempts to bridge that 10% on the 90-10. Why can't we get that 10 down from the SBA somehow on a 504, even if it collateralizes the land or building? That's a little.
Yeah, what they like? Okay, there's no such thing as 100% financing with a small business loan. At a minimum requirement, you have to put in about 10% what you're asking for. If you have a startup business, it could be 20 or 30%. So at a minimum, 10% has to come from you. And that's, I mean, that is protection from, well, again, I'm a former banker. What that is, again, is that no one else assume all the risk for you. It shows that you're very serious about your business. We call that equity injection or skin in the game. So show what you have invested in your business before you seek financing.
Right. Thanks, Frank. Okay, the last question I'm seeing is, would the 8A program be a good fit for a service industry such as an automotive repair shop?
I would say a possibility. Especially if you do some federal contracting, may repair federal vehicles, maybe post office vehicles, or something like that, or either other federal agencies. But it's a possibility also.
Okay, great. All right, Curtis, I guess I'll turn it back to you. But again, reminder to folks that the presentation will be shared, so you'll have some of those links that were discussed. I dropped the link in chat that's also in Mike Fazio's presentation about an upcoming working capital pilot webinar. If you want to dig a little deeper into understanding working capital and that new resource with SBA. But I guess that's it for us. Thanks, guys, for all the great information, and thanks again for your service. And pleasure working with you.
Yes, thank all of you guys. This was great information. I really appreciate your time, your efforts to be able to come out here and, provide us with the resources that you have. I really think the participants got something out of it. I could tell by the comments in the chat and some of the emails I'm receiving as well. So thank you all once again for your time. Thank you to the participants. Please fill out the survey at the end of this webinar. Let us know how we did today. We do value your feedback. So I hope everybody have a wonderful day. Definitely give your time back. And if you need anything, please feel free to email me and let me know. I will send out the PowerPoint and the recording sometime tomorrow, no later than next week, as soon as it's ready. So have a good day, and I hope everybody have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks, Curtis. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Carol.
All right, take care.
So we got